Hey everybody, Chris here again. Welcome back to the channel. Always good to have you with us. So today, we're continuing our adventures in OS2. And today, we're going to look at OS2 Warp 3.0 Connect. We'll have a quick look at some of the different quirks and features associated with it, and we'll go from there. Listen to that nice startup sound. I can't wait to explore. Let's go. So here you can see booted up the Workspace Shell, I believe it's called, and immediately we can see some improvements over OS2 2.1 that we looked at last time. We have this little menu type thing down here, so as opposed to doing like a right click to shut down, you also have the option to execute some of the concepts you see here, including a file explorer where you can flop between the floppy disk and the hard drive, as well as flopping between OS2 and DOS shells. And there's also a tutorial, and there's also this shredder, which is like the recycle bin. So let's have a look at some of the different things here on the desktop. So let's start with this little launcher bar at the bottom. On the far left, you can see there's a lockup button. And everything is complete with sound effects. We can put our password in and get back. That seems to work the same as it did in OS2 1 and OS2 2.1. Also have a shutdown button, a find button, a Windows list button, which is kind of like an active applications button. And then you have the file explorer over here, where you can flop between the floppy and the hard disk, as I noted. We can click there and we can see everything on drive C, complete with sound effects. And then over here you have your traditional shells that we've seen before. And a tutorial right next to it. So this is the OS2 tutorial, where you can learn all about using OS2. Maybe I need to take it so I can get some of the terms right, but it goes through the basics, applications, once again objects, similar to that 2.1 theme. The theme of objects lives on, so you have that as well. Multimedia and games, and an index. So there you have it. In the top right here, we have the OS2 peer group. And this is for peer-to-peer networking. Sound effects are going to kill me. Where you can do different things like log in, start a peer. I do have things set up right now so that we can share files, or at least access shared files from other systems. So we'll look at that here in a few minutes as well. Next, we have this UMC Services, which I guess is also similar to user account management. So very similar to what we saw over here on the peer side. Next up, we have multimedia, and if we go in here, we can see a variety of different options, including some sound bites that we can play, some MIDI files, and lots of WAV files. I definitely love how these files are named. I think these are the sounds we keep hearing as we open and close Windows. Remember that back in the 90s and the early 2000s, that was a thing where every single move you did would make some sort of a sound. I think that didn't last very long, and people got really tired of that. But anyway. You get the idea. If you've ever wondered what the IBM Rally song is, we can play that for you. It sounds kind of familiar, but I can't really put my finger on it as to what it is. It sounds like some sort of a familiar song, though. If you know what it is, leave a note down in the comments. But that's the IBM Rally song, I guess. Excellent. Let's go ahead and get out of here. What other sort of multimedia things do we have? We have volume control, which I have cut way down. 100% was way too loud. You can mute it. Also have some movies options if you want to watch movies, as well as digital video or compact discs, but I don't have any of that set up right now. So kind of neat. Next up, similar to OS2 2.1, we do have Windows programs as well. And this installed version of OS2 is the Blue Label version, which means that Windows is bundled with it. So I actually didn't have to do a separate installation of Windows. Windows came installed with it. So that's what we can see here, your various Windows features. Very similar to what we looked at last time, though of interesting note, everything is now called WinOS2. And if we go to Help About, it's also going to say IBM WinOS2 Program Manager, copyright IBM. So there's definitely some work here that was done by IBM to make this more than just your standard Windows application, I suppose, though it looks a lot like Windows. Next up, and of particular interest, I noticed that we got a DOS programs group. So if we come over here, we can see that we have QBasic and Microsoft Diagnostics. So we could write like a little BASIC program if I can remember BASIC, which off the top of my hand I don't. But you could definitely write that. And if we go to Help About for this, lo and behold, it's the IBM DOS editor. It looks very much like the MS-DOS editor. But yeah, you could do BASIC if you wanted to. And also you've got MS Diagnostics. So here you can see various things about this particular PC. It is a 486DX, happens to be a 66, and it is an FX 3000 motherboard, despite being a Gateway 2000. Unfortunately, it does not have its original motherboard. It got eaten by a Varta battery, but we do have this motherboard in place, and it does have 32 megs of memory and a Speedstar video card, so that's all been detected properly, as well as Microsoft LAN Manager, which is essentially what we have for the LAN management. It even tells you the domain, kind of cool. It's a non-MS-DOS version 2.3. I'm guessing that maybe OS2 version 3 showed up as 2.3. Here you can see it says 2.3, and here you can see it says 3.0, so that must have just been some trickery they did. Actually, to me, if you ask me, and I might get some thumbs downs for this, but it feels more like OS2 2.3 than it does 3.0 based upon the similarities, so maybe that's not far off. Moving on. So we've got a PS2 mouse, a game adapter, 4 drives, 3 LPT ports. I don't believe that for a minute. It's possible. COM ports and your different IRQs and things as well, so that's kind of cool. And you can also see all the different TSRs, which is particularly interesting since we are running with OS2 and not DOS. Interesting that append and MSD are in memory in all these different segments. And you've got your device drivers as well, so that's kind of cool. You can see all those. So kind of neat. Next up, we have the networking group. And the only thing we have in here is OS2 peer, as well as LAN server and OS2 peer resources. So that's kind of more of the same that you saw up here. I've noticed that some things are kind of grouped in multiple places. Continuing on with network, we have some LAN tools here. I guess there's a sign-in coordinator too. I don't know a whole lot about that. It probably has to do with logging in and the like. Maybe to some sort of a special IBM server. I don't know. Very interesting. So this talks about network sign-on coordinator too. Oh, okay. So you can use it with DOS clients, OS2 clients, NSC servers, DASD. Look at that. So all these different options. Kind of cool. Looks like a one-stop shop for network sign-on. Next, we have this IBM Internet Connection for OS2 group. To me, this feels a lot like something that you would use with a dial-up modem, because despite the fact that we have like a web explorer here, if we click on it, it's going to say you're not connected. However, there's another group elsewhere that will say that you're already connected. So it's almost like they've configured this for internet use. So we won't look at that too much. Now to get on to the quirks part of the operating system, which should also correlate nicely with all the noises you hear. For some reason, on installation, we get 2 copies of MPTs on the desktop. I'm not sure what that's all about, but there you have it. MPTs is, of course, where you would go to configure your network settings. We can pop in there quickly and see what that's all about, where we've got all of the different protocols set. By default, when OS2 installed, it installed NetBIOS, and I also chose NetBIOS over TCP/IP. All of this was configured for me. Once again, in 3.0, they have made configuration easier. Next up, we do have some Sound Blaster resources. So when I went to install the AWE64 drivers, they actually worked because they are designed to work with OS2 Warp. So we can see all the different programs associated with the Sound Blaster, such as the Mosaic, and you can slide the pieces around and hear sounds or make it very angry. So, but yeah, this is kind of your classic slider game. which Creative Labs did bundle quite a bit back in the day, and that does include this OS2 version that you see here. So kind of cool. Additionally, there's a control panel for loading sound fonts, as well as a mixer. We can click through here and see some different options for loading different effects and sound fonts, I believe. And here we've got some other audio visuals, including wave and MIDI and movie and overlay. Next up, we have the OS2 System folder. And this is really the heart of everything. You've got your minimized window viewer, which I guess used to be on the desktop, which isn't anymore, as well as drives, which also used to be on the desktop, I believe. Actually, maybe that was located in OS2 System in the last version of OS2. You've got your different command prompts. You've got your games, of which there are a lot less games than there were in 2.1. But we do have Mahjong Solitaire now. And it'll give you little hints or not. It's kind of clever. And from here you can play Mahjong. So that's kind of fun. I don't remember the rules of Mahjong. Oh, right. You have to lift tiles that are on top, don't you? So anyway, I think I broke it already. Yeah. I think I really broke it just now. Anyway, after a system crash that it looks like I caused, we're back. And here's Mahjong once again. Let me try to play it. Okay, this time I was successful in clearing some pieces. I do seem to remember hearing something about the event queue in OS2, that if you locked up one process, it would lock up the whole GUI. We might have just experienced that. But anyway, we're back, and we did play a couple of tiles here, but I'm going to leave before I cause any further trouble. There's also Klondike Solitaire, which looks a lot like the OS2 2.1 version, as you can see by the OS2 branded cards. And we also have OS2 Chess as well, which also looks similar to the past. Oh, interesting. Let's see how this goes. I can't wait to see this. Wow! You can watch chess play out before your very eyes. You just set it up to have the computer play the computer. Now, why didn't I think about that before? I wonder how long this will go on for. Well, you know, I was really rooting for the computer on this one, but it looks like the computer won. But that's kind of cool. So there you have it. Checkmate in 2 minutes or less. Very neat. So looking at some of the other items here in the OS2 system, we have system setup. And here you have a variety of different setup items. This is a lot richer than we've seen in the past. You can go in and set up WinOS2, for example. You've got your little notebook where you can set things up. That looks pretty similar to what we've seen before. You also have the ability to create utility disks, add programs, uninstall applications. You can change your mouse settings, I guess, kind of like before. So these are all options here. The selective install is kind of neat because you can go back after you've installed the operating system and have kind of a quick one-touch way to install more applications if you'd like. So that's kind of neat. This is the actual screen you see when you do your initial setup of the system. So there you have it, your video card, your sound card, CD-ROM drive, printers, all available in one easy-to-view location. Of course, you do have the color palette. I'm a little disappointed because it doesn't look like the Twister board anymore, but that's okay. Ooh, how are your eyes? Oh my, I think the screen is on fire. Yeah, okay, that's better, that's better. Anyway, but yeah, you can definitely have some fun there. Or I guess you could play like an April Fool's prank on somebody if you really wanted to. Just make all their windows this color. Oh, that's kind of neat. Yeah. I could spend some time with this, but we won't. We have a sound panel as well. And that's where we can set all of our system sounds, or maybe disable our system sounds. Oh, hey, look at that. Ah, very good. Out we go. Things are quiet now. Also have your font palette. Looks very similar to OS2 2.1. And we have our system window up here as well. Talks about our screen resolution and refresh rate. as well as confirming on folder delete, things along those lines. So once again, just similar settings that you would see. I've come in here and actually disabled print screen, as well as a logo and some other things as well. We also have a warp connect install remove folder. And that allows you to actually do even more options with install. Though, like I said, I'm seeing a lot of things that are repeated over and over in different places. I guess that's a convenience thing. You can kind of choose your favorite place to go. This icon here on the desktop. This icon here, I think we just saw it a screen back. So it seems like there's certainly some repetition, but it is what it is. In the productivity folder, we have our picture viewer, which seems to be a mainstay, as well as the classic OS2 editor and an enhanced editor, which I hadn't seen before. Wow, so now we're really getting fancy, and that you can actually edit between the lines. It's always good to edit between the lines. And maybe there's like a spell check or something here? I don't know. Okay, well, this looks a little bit interesting. But yeah, I guess you've got an advanced editor if you want to do some advanced editing. You can also seek and scan files. I guess if you're trying to find a certain file or a file with certain text in it, that can come in really handy. If you're trying to find like a configuration file or some file you've edited. So that's really nice. And finally, in the OS2 System menu, of most interest to me is this TCP/IP group, where you've got your different options like Telnet and other types of things, FTP, the Web Explorer, which we're definitely going to have a look at. But let's start with Telnet. So with Telnet, we can connect over to my Raspberry Pi, and we can log in and have a nice Telnet session. And even better, when we create that session, we should choose ANSI, and we'll actually see color. There we go. Helps if I get my login right. Now you can see color. We can go in and look at the mail account that was set up for the Tandy videos I've done in the past. And there you have it. Kind of neat. Moving on, we definitely have to look at the Web Explorer. So the Web Explorer, I think, is a primitive web browser. You can open up document URLs. And lo and behold, it's loading a bunch of JavaScript. Or actually, this is not JavaScript, I'm sorry. This is CSS. And if we scroll down, we can see that this is like the default Apache web page. It's associated with my Raspberry Pi. So here we are browsing the web-ish in OS2 3. But if we try to open up other websites, I think we're going to quickly run into trouble. No viewer associated with this type of file. Would you like to copy the file to your local disk? Okay. And I think before long, we're going to crash. But in any event, it's a little web viewer, a very primitive one, but a web viewer. We also have this information folder. And in here you have a whole bunch of different guides, like an introduction to TCP/IP, peer commands. So basically, it looks like every sort of product that was installed on this put some sort of a folder in here. We could look at Intro to TCP/IP, for example, and it'll tell you what it is, how to configure it, how to enable a LAN interface, how to configure a dial-up interface, and basically how to explore this new crazy thing called the World Wide Web and Internet, whatever that's all about. I don't know if it's going to catch on or not, but you can also use Gopher, send email, Telnet, and so basically everything that you could ever imagine on the internet, here it is in OS2 TCP/IP. So the only other thing I wanted to demonstrate is the fact that I've got things configured for sharing network folders. So if we go to command prompts and go to the OS2 window, we can do a net use on my Raspberry Pi and map it to drive Z. And we do have to log in as guest. And after quite some time, it finally completes the connection. We can then go to drive Z and do a dir and see all of our files. So there you have it. So that's pretty much what I had for you today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell. There's more content to come. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, feel free to give it a thumbs down. In weeks to come, I'm going to talk about how I configured this setup for OS2, as well as explore OS2 Warp 4. So that'll be interesting as well. Hope you'll join us for that. Otherwise, we'll see you until next time. Bye-bye.